Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2 here at What's Spinnin'.
Yeah, baby.
You're joined here with Brett Kelly, myself,
And Mitch Hall.
the 45 Drive side, and we have a wonderful guest with us this first episode, our friend Raid Owl, Brett. Surprise, surprise. There's a lot of commonalities between you and I.
We're going to get some Spider-Man memes of staring at each other here coming up.
Yeah, we're going to jump into and hit you some questions on your beginnings and how you became Raid Owl. But I did want to point out there's some hilarious similarities between you and myself.
You're both Brett.
We're both Brett, first of all.
That's the obvious one.
Yeah.
I also have an electrical engineering degree. So we got that going for us, and that kind of your steering into the IT world was kind of similar to mine too, where I didn't really set out that way, but I ended up here and having a lot of fun with it. So nice to talk to such a similar soul.
All that to say,
Awesome.
thank you for coming aboard. Really happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys for inviting me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So you've had your hands on the homelab for the last little while. Loved the video that you put out. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive into all that, what we love to start with is essentially origin story, right? Everyone that we interview has a really, really cool path that they've taken to get where they are today. Creators, I think, are some of the most interesting people. They have so many different things going on, so many different passions, it seems. So we'd love to hear kind of how you made your way into the YouTube creator space and doing especially home lab content itself, specifically as someone coming from an electrical engineering background.
Sure. Okay. Man, you set me up there and said everyone has a cool origin story, so I'll try to make this sound as cool as possible. But no, like you said, I do have an electrical engineering degree. How much electrical engineering I've actually done in my professional life is probably very minimal.
Yep.
So I started working at a utility company. And I was hired on as an engineer that didn't do any actual engineering work. I did a lot of training and policy management, but that was boring as shit. So in my downtime, I was doing some development work and spicing up their Excel sheets with some VBA and stuff. And that progressively got more involved to where I was developing Windows services and some web apps. And after 4 years of doing that, IT came along and was like, stop doing that because we have no one to support it if you get hit by a truck tomorrow.
Right.
So come work in IT where you can actually do that. And we have a team that can, be your backup.
Yep.
So that's how I got into IT. How I got into YouTube is that I've always been involved with tech and stuff. I've always watched YouTube, even before starting my channel and even getting into home lab stuff. I had watched Jeff Geerling's content a lot, and Jeff from Craft Computing. Both of them I watched a lot before even thinking about a YouTube channel. Then what happened is I'd always wanted to get into photography, and to get into that, you have to have a big fancy camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had a good reason to do it. But then I was like, hey, if I buy a fancy camera for photography, I can also use that to make a YouTube channel. So it was kind of in my mind justifying
the price.
Getting a fancy camera. Yeah. So I bought a camera. I started my channel. It was going to be just generic tech content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at my first videos, they're I upgraded my i7700K.
Right.
I bought some dumb tech stuff on Amazon. Let's check it out. And I made one video that was let's turn my Windows machine into a virtualization server with VirtualBox.
Yeah.
And that got so many more views than I was used to. And I was like, wait, people want to see this type of stuff? So I got into virtualization and self-hosting stuff, and two channels that really inspired me to transition into that home labbing stuff was Techno Tim and Tom Lawrence. I'd watched so many of their videos and I was like,
Guilty.
Man, this
Also
stuff actually looks really cool. So Then I just steered into homelab content and just progressively of just learning as I go and sharing my experience as I go, and here I am.
That's awesome.
That's very cool. See, I'm very similar where I've always been into tech. It's always been my thing. And I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. It's always been like, but the problem with me personally is I'm not creative. Like I'm not like an artsy person. Like I could never draw, never good with music. And I find for people that are really good, like your aesthetics of your videos, everything are really, really on point. I would struggle with that incredibly. So I'd have to get like Chris or someone in to help.
We got our own producer here. Yeah,
like all this nice, good stuff. So, but I still have that fire where I want to make some content myself. But in the meantime, doing 45 Drive stuff is really fun.
Yeah. It's funny, your intro there of how you started your engineering career, again, very similar to mine. I worked in industrial controls, and my first job was updating all the safety documentation and like boring stuff of like where the muster point is and things like that. So the adventure out of that world and into this has been incredibly fun.
Yeah. For sure, especially because you were
I can imagine.
Brett came in and literally kind of built this place. It was very, very early days, and so yeah, you got to do a lot of really fun stuff with the engineering.
Yeah, and that is the fun part of engineering, because you touched on it too. You talk to a lot of engineers who'll be like, yeah, I did that in school. I don't use a lot of it right now, but that's kind of where it comes down to. We just get taught how to be technical
Most
problem
of us
solvers.
are like that. I don't use anything in my school either.
Yeah.
Very, very little. Some of the networking comes into play, but other than that.
Yeah, so where do you see the future of the channel? Like, are you going to stay in this homelab thing? Do you have some grand aspirations for it, or is it always kind of a side hobby for you?
Oh, man. I feel like I go back and forth with this a lot, because, I mean, it's easy to sit here and say, yeah, like it being a hobby and, you know, I wanted to keep it that way, but in the back of everyone's mind, whether you say it or not, when you start a YouTube channel, you want it to grow to be this big thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't think too many people start a YouTube channel without kind of that thing in the back of their mind, like, man, what if this does get big? What if this does become? Yeah, it's like buying a lottery ticket. No one buys a lottery ticket saying, yeah, you know, what if I win, you know, $10 off this lottery ticket? So, I don't know. I like the trajectory it's headed. I started it off as, I guess, a little side note about it is when I get into a hobby, I tend to just like jump right into the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted to get into photography, so I bought like 2 expensive apparatus, like 5 really nice lenses and stuff. So I don't just ease into a hobby.
Yeah.
With YouTube, and I know that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this YouTube channel. I'll probably do it for like a year until it gets old, and then I'll stop, because, you know, maybe I got to like 50 subscribers and I'm tired of making videos that get like 2 views.
Yep.
But then it did bigger and bigger, and it's still growing. So I'm just kind of riding the wave and seeing where it's going. I tell everyone my main goal is to get to 100,000 subs so I can get that YouTube plaque and retire.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No.
Everyone,
Yeah.
subscribe.
I see big things ahead personally. Yeah. I don't know how many people we got viewing here, but they're probably all subbed to you already.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I see big things ahead. I personally really love the content that you put out for sure. Actually, it's your channel video right now, but it's the one that first pops up when you go onto your channel. It was one I wanted to talk to you about, because your home lab is very, very well built out for sure. I think you got 6 or 7 VLANs there, and they're all very purpose built for different reasons. But I did notice that you've got Ceph in there, which is cool. I noticed that you are an aspiring Cepher. You're looking to really get into that. Where would you rate your skills or your knowledge on Ceph right now? Are you still diving in, or are you just getting your feet wet? And what do you think of it?
Okay, so on a scale of like 1 to 10, like 1.1, I guess. Like I like the idea of learning as I go.
Yep.
Sure.
So I'm never going to be like the most super technical person. I'm more of like, I'll dive into it, and as I break things.
That's the way.
The black box analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep opening the black boxes.
Yeah, so I initially had a K through S cluster set up
Nice.
with HA storage using Longhorn.
Oh, okay.
And that worked for a bit. I mean, I used it, it was cool, but then I tore that down in favor of switching to a Proxmox cluster. And the way they handle that is through Ceph. So I started up a Ceph cluster, and I have a mod in my Discord who basically holds my hand through any issues I have because he knows Ceph stuff.
Nice.
So anytime I have a question, I kind of like poke him, and I'm like, hey, how do I safely shut this down without losing all my data? Or how do I add another node without breaking stuff? Or how do I tier the storage in my cluster? So, I mean, I'm kind of learning as I go. It's a really cool technology. There is some kind of black box stuff to it that I still don't understand, obviously. Same thing with like ZFS itself too. Like, who really understands how all the caching and all that works, really? Come on, let's stop pretending.
Well, that's what we like.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's kind of our way of learning here too, because, you know, you can look at it all and stare at the sun and go blind and lose your mind, or you just treat everything like the black box, and you open up and unpack each black box as you need to.
Eventually, the time goes.
Eventually, you'll get down there, and that's the experience part, right? So,
But Ceph is really, I find it's unique in the way that like you can get very competent in using Ceph and administering Ceph in a few months, but like you could literally spend, and I have spent, and more people have spent even more, years upon years, and you are still learning things pretty much on a monthly basis because it's such a beast, which is something I love. It makes me you know, you feel like you have that one piece of knowledge that some people really want. You go on the Ceph subreddit, no one else really cares, but you go on the Ceph subreddit and it's like, I could help these people out.
That raises a great point I wanted to ask you. Doing this, all making all these videos, it's fun and everything like that. I know I've always enjoyed it, and your comment about going on the subreddit and helping people. But helping people and teaching people is kind of the root of all this. Like one of the comments we have in the chat right now, I think, it wasn't you, but someone else is like, you've helped me out a few times. Pretty sure it's you who taught me how to CH root into a broken system.
Yep.
Talk about that. Like, do you get satisfaction from that feedback of people being like, this was exactly what I needed to help and everything like that? Like, I know that's one of my favorite parts about making videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always liked the teaching side of it, even in my professional career. I started off in doing training. And then when I was doing all this like VBA stuff, they asked me like, hey, can you like teach some of the people around the office? So I put together like a little course to teach people like the basics and how to, you know, if I do get hit by that bus, they can come into some of the spreadsheets that are out there and kind of work on them themselves and stuff like that. And I don't know that I started the YouTube channel specifically to teach people, because I didn't really see that I had much to offer for that. I was more in it like, hey, maybe I'm an entertaining dude. I don't know. Maybe people want to
go on the journey.
And then I was like, and then I started getting into the homelab stuff, and I didn't know anything. Like I still battle with the imposter syndrome of just because I'm a dude with a camera that's talking about these things does not make me by any means an expert. But I was in a position where I didn't know anything, and now I'm in a position where maybe I do know a little bit. And there are people that were where I was a few years ago, and my goal was to kind of show what I wish I knew when I started and what I've learned along the way, and show that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. Maybe something I did in one of the videos didn't do well at all, or maybe I broke something, but I mean, I'm not above showing that and showing my mistakes. So I think that's where it comes down to when people come and say, I like that you showed those mistakes. I like that you showed that this didn't go maybe how you planned.
It's authentic.
Because that's how kind of I learned. So, those are the ones that kind of reach out to me and say, it makes me feel more human, more genuine. So I guess take that for what you will. I do like those, and I hope that my content, resonates with some people, but I'm just a dude, like I said, with a camera that's learning
just a dude with a
how
camera.
to do home labbing stuff. Yeah, that's basically it.
I love that answer. That resonates really well with us. I know I feel almost the exact same. And yeah, and even one comment came in right as you said that your videos are great, your sense of humor along with the fantastic ability to explain what you've learned. People love authenticity.
Yep.
They just want to see it be perfect. I know I hate
They can
those
tell.
videos where it's you do this, and you can see the cuts in it, and you're just like, that didn't go as smooth as you just told me
As
it
you're
did.
claiming
I
it
know
is.
it didn't.
Yeah. And sometimes, we struggle with that because sometimes we're like, do we leave this in? And like, it's like, now we don't do like big scripts where we're like reading off the teleprompter. It's like, we're going to do a little more raw. And some people might not like that, but I think the authenticity comes through on it with more so with that kind of stuff.
All right, well then I'll hit you with this one. So with all that, like you're trying to get to 100K subs. You're at about 70 right now. Which one of your videos is your favorite that you're like, yep, that's the best one I've done? And conversely, which one you're like, ooh, yeah, that one could have been better? Or
oh God, I'd have to have them right in front of me to. Okay, let's see. So my favorite one. It looks like my camera decided to
Focus
think
out a
that it's
bit.
going to
Disassociate a little bit.
yeah.
Okay, there we go. God, my best video. I think I'm gonna go with the. This is tough.
They're all just so good.
Yeah, they're all just so mediocre. Though.
I love it.
I will go with. I think it was my first homelab tour because my
cool.
homelab tour, not from this year but from last year, because it was my first time actually taking a step back and looking at, what is all this stuff was, and actually being able to explain everything I have, justify why I have it,
Right.
in a single video. My worst video is, besides
Or
a lot
most
of the early
challenging,
ones.
yeah.
I think my most challenging to make was I used only a Raspberry Pi for a week, and I had to edit my entire video and edit the thumbnail and do everything entirely off a Raspberry Pi. That I liked how it came out.
Yeah.
I did not like doing it.
No.
So
Committed to the bit.
I will not
like
be doing
it.
that again.
Especially when you're used
did.
to
It was-
some grunt behind your hardware.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Going from my 13900K build with a 4090 to
Yeah.
a Raspberry Pi 4.
Very
not the
similar
play.
build.
Not, yeah, not fun at all.
It's funny.
Which,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, that reminds me, I'm actually I'm switching to Linux.
Nice.
So I did that last year too. So I'm doing it again. This is my dedicated Linux machine. You can tell it's Linux because there's stickers on the laptop. That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's a Linux machine. So starting in
Hipster
February, so in a couple of days, I am switching completely to Linux,
Nice.
and that will be
Video.
interesting.
What
because
distro?
I
are
did it
you
last
into
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that would. So obviously the answer is the wrong one because
Yeah,
no matter what
yeah.
I pick, people are. And I learned that in last year's video when I made it, and people were like, "Why'd you choose this? You should have chose this." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Yeah.
So I tried Ubuntu, Pop OS, and Mint,
Yep.
and eventually settled on Mint.
Yeah.
I think it's working. I think the best for me now. Whether that changes before February when I officially start this,
Right.
who knows? But for now, we're going with Mint.
That's a good answer
yeah,
because
no.
the right answer is whatever works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no
whatever you're
best
comfortable
answer.
with.
Yeah.
Are you
And
much
I
of a
always think
gamer?
it's funny.
Go ahead.
No, I am not.
Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say it's always funny when people say, "I don't care. I don't care what operating system you're using, as long as it's not Windows or Mac OS, and you're good." I'm like,
Well,
"Oh,
you
okay.
care.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that you care.
Yeah.
So,
Temple
I
OS,
use them all.
maybe?
Windows. Yeah, Windows for my main system.
Yep.
Mac OS. I have a MacBook, and Linux for all my homelab stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I genuinely don't care what people use. And when I ask people, I think the most common answer I got of which distro I should use was Hannah Montana OS.
I've
So
seen
I
that one,
might have
yeah.
to try that out.
Yeah, gotta get the good
So-
meme OS, or the meme distros in there.
That's an actual.
for real.
Is it based
Oh,
on
yeah.
Linux?
Of course.
Okay. No, I haven't seen
it's
that one.
actual
That's
thing.
hilarious.
You know, it's a special Microsoft
Yes.
side project, Mitchell.
Oh
We'll see how that goes.
Oh,
That'd
that's
be
funny.
BSD. No.
But you know what really happens? When I first started using Linux is like, so same thing, idea at home, main drivers, Windows, mainly because I like to play video games on
Yeah,
it, so it's
yeah.
just
Easy.
whatever. But like at work, I would every once in a while I'd get bored and I'd switch one up.
Switch.
Had to do an arch just to do it,
Yeah.
and then eventually now I'm so deep into Fedora, and my desire to change is so much smaller than my desire to set everything up again.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, nope, this is where I'm staying.
Where I'm at forever now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fedora was one of the, I think the second most requested, or when I asked which one. It was like Ubuntu and Mint were like the top, and then Fedora was definitely a popular suggestion.
I like Pop. I like Pop OS for desktop use. I've had good experience with that.
And at the end, like we said, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for
Yep,
you.
for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, like I'm a big gamer too. So Windows is like I love my Steam Deck. Don't get me wrong. They did some fantastic work with Linux and gaming on Linux over the last couple of years, but nothing still beats a Windows machine for gaming.
Yeah, and there is
absolutely.
kind of a lack of video editing tools on Linux as well too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got like
Yeah.
DaVinci and yeah. What are you going to use actually for that specifically? If you're moving to Linux, what's your plan for video editing?
I use DaVinci on
DaVinci, that's
Windows
what I thought. Okay.
Nice.
as well. So I switched from Premiere about a year ago
Oh, okay.
because their updates were just absolute butt cheeks and weren't like giving us anything.
Our
My
video
producer
editor
is
we were
yelling right
asking
now.
for. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
An
It
agreement.
feels the same way. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, yeah, you're paying $50 a month or whatever subscription. And I was like, man, for $50 a month, and Adobe being one of the biggest companies in the world, like the updates you're releasing are just so terrible that I just bit the bullet, switched to Resolve, and it's been great.
Awesome.
And the fact that it runs on Linux, Windows, and Mac,
and Mac.
I can pick up whatever machine and just keep editing.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, yeah, and it is, in my brief experience running DaVinci on Linux, it works. I wouldn't say it works great as well as on my Mac or my Windows machine, but it's definitely better than when I tried to edit my Raspberry Pi using Kden Live, which, don't get me wrong, a free software. I'll never complain about a free
Exactly.
software.
That's right.
People put a lot of time and effort into building that thing for people to use it for free, so I'll never shit on that. But man, I don't think I would want to switch full time to Kden if I have the opportunity to use DaVinci. So probably stick with that.
So I don't know much about video editing at all. Does like DaVinci Resolve have like CUDA acceleration on Linux and stuff like that, or are you an AMD? They do. Okay, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you have to buy the because DaVinci's free, but then they have their studio version for
Makes sense.
$300 just one time, and I think it might be just on Linux or it might be on all platforms where you have to buy the studio version to get hardware acceleration
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
support. So
Cool, man.
yeah, it's worth it.
So moving on, I want to talk about the homelab, and particularly the HL15. So how's your time with it been, and what are your future plans for that, for where that's going to live in your homelab setup?
The Ford Raptor, as he called it.
Yes, I like that one.
Yeah, the Ford Raptor of the can you tell I'm from Texas?
Yeah.
Texas. It's a very Texas thing to say.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's definitely the nicest looking system in my rack, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the most solidly built. And it's been because I knew when the video came out, and I knew like talking about this and seeing other people's reviews and stuff, the common thing,
Nice.
obviously so many people acknowledge it's a well built, awesome system, but then you get the people who are like, yeah, why would you buy this over, I can put 15 drives in this $100 case, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
I can
yeah,
go to
know.
eBay
There's no-
and get
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
old enterprise
I
server.
know. I can buy there's people driving around BMWs. You can go tell them they can buy a Toyota Corolla and get from A to B the same way. It's like, I know that. That's not why it was built. And that's not the market it's in. But yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. My next thing I want to do is I'm going to be using it to test kind of my first experiences with Houston, Houston UI, and do like a Houston versus TrueNAS kind of put them against each other and see pros and cons from each side and see how that goes.
Awesome.
But I did look at it briefly, so I guess my video would be disingenuous to say it's my first look because I did poke around in it a bit. And I had never seen it before that. I mean, I'd seen it through like videos and stuff, but I never actually used it. And my perception before that was kind of like, man, like with ZFS and stuff, I mean, everyone just uses TrueNAS. I don't know why, this is going to be a tough market to break into. But after using it for a bit, I was like, okay, maybe this is, something I could actually switch to because it did seem that good. And I'm not just saying that because I wasn't anticipating doing this like Houston versus TrueNAS type video, but I think they are good enough to go head to head with each other. So I think that's going to be the game plan. And what I use it for down the line, I do want to turn it into, this doesn't sound super cringe coming from CES and all the AI stuff, but I do want to actually try building up like a little AI server. I do have that running in my main one with like a single GPU, but I do want to mess around with some AI stuff.
Yeah, train out some models and stuff.
That's really exciting. First of all, can't wait to hear the feedback on that. We're putting a big push in here to up the functionality and add some more to Houston over the next few months here at 45 Drive. So really excited to hear feedback there and areas for improvement. And in the comment of, you're right, TrueNAS is awesome. I loved it when it was FreeNAS, love it now TrueNAS. My only real complaint on it is BSD. And that's it's great to have a similar-ish UI running on Linux where I can do all Linuxy things.
And the one I would have too is the TrueNAS UI. You are locked in. Like this is what you've got. You're not going to use anything else. And there's some things that I would never use. Like there's just stuff that just goes completely unused in TrueNAS. Whereas Houston is nice because you can install the modules you want, don't install the modules you don't want, add sideload some ones that are not specifically from Houston and 45 Drive's team. And then, I love our file explorer. I think it's so cool. Navigator. You can do permission management through there. You can download the files right to your desktop through the UI. Like
it's a fun story how we developed that too. It was a very, very highly requested feature in Cockpit. So the base of Houston UI is something called the Cockpit Project. And we chose that on purpose because it's a good solid base. It gives into the free and open source world. And we were building our modules to plug in on top of it. And that way, the whole thing kind of stays open source and we can build that way. So one of the big requested features in the Cockpit was, I want a file browser. And the developers there just said, cool, hear ya. We're not going to do that. And it was very disliked comment and everything like that. And I showed it to a couple people on our engineering team here. He's like, oh, I could whip that up. And then that was the birth of Navigator. So it was fun.
So that's really cool.
And actually, I want to add,
I will say,
go ahead.
I was going to say, that is a huge feature and something that, because I run TrueNAS and Synology in my lab. And the main thing I love about Synology is that I can just drill down using their built-in file browser to just check on files that I have within these different file systems. And TrueNAS doesn't have anything like that. And the other thing about TrueNAS is that I don't generally like their backup and restoration, the way they do it. I know it's like just built-in ZFS. You can go in
ZFS and
just do it the standard ZFS way, but like the GUI way, you're used to working in the GUI to get stuff done in TrueNAS. I just don't like the restoration process. Seems like there's a lot to be desired there.
Yeah, and I think you're using rsync, right? Because you're using ButterFS or you're using Synology, which isn't ZFS. So you do like an rsync job.
And that's one of the reasons why I switched from having a dedicated ZFS backup to just going with Synology as my backup and my remote being Synology as well. because I didn't typically like how they
Just the way
handled restoration there. So I was like, man, I'm just going to copy this over with rsync.
Yep.
And I can see all the files. I can restore it how I want, and it's easier to just do everything remotely with Synology's built-in ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
than it is doing it the whole way with ZFS and TrueNAS. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I none of these systems are perfect. They all have their little flaws. They
That's
all
right.
have pros and cons, and that's kind of
That's
one
a
of the things
home
I've
lab.
seen with TrueNAS. So,
That's a home lab.
exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect unless you ask a YouTube commenter, then the thing they like is perfect. But
Of course.
I love it.
Throwing shots.
Yeah. Your other comment too about turning it into an AI box, really cool idea there. Actually, we're doing that internally as well too.
Dabbling. I think
So
everyone's dabbling these
everyone's
days.
dabbling, and you're
Everyone's
you're dumb
dabbling.
not to dabble.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a buzzword,
gotta
and everyone
dabble.
just says AI, but
Yep.
yeah, a lot of dabble. But yeah, over on the other side. So 45 Drives and our sister company Protocase, who does all our metal manufacturing and assembly, we gave them one of the HomeLab 15s, HL15s, stuck a big GPU into it, and one of their big developers there, Adam, is cooking up,
Training something up.
Our internal wiki has got amazing information on it, but
Hard to
it's getting hard to
search.
search.
Yeah.
So he's trying to teach that to our to an AI box. So good
Yeah.
minds think alike.
I think like all the meeting minutes is just throws off the search so bad. So you try to search something and all the meeting minutes for all the weekly meetings just comes up. So yeah, it'd be cool to see what it can do with there.
But it's fun to learn.
Yep. But
Yeah,
we
the,
got to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the what I'm using for now is it hosts a local AI instance, and I just load the models into there, and it's connected directly to my Nextcloud
Yep.
install, and they have a built-in AI assistant that connects directly to a local AI instance you have running, so you don't have to rely on sending it out to like OpenAI or whatever AI cloud provider
Yeah.
you want to use. You can host it yourself.
Self-host,
So that's
yeah.
what I'm doing now, and it's pretty cool. Like you were saying, if you are in Nextcloud, like their ecosystem, which I went to their conference last year, and it was crazy how much bigger they are over in Europe versus
Really?
here in the States. Like here in the States, I feel like it's not as big, or the people who are using it are just using it for storage, but it seems like a lot of like universities and companies over there using it for like their full
whole
suite,
suite,
from
yeah.
like chat and video calls and storage and their
The
office,
office
suite
suite.
and everything.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, they have some AI features built into that to where during a call it'll transcribe everything at the end. It'll summarize like notes, and you can create you can send it your documents or your meeting notes or whatever, and it'll summarize that or give you like kind of a breakdown of everything. It's pretty cool.
That
So
is
I've
really cool
kind of been
because
playing with that.
those kind of things are all very paid products, right? So it's like Nextcloud have done a really good job on doing a lot of this and doing it free. There's obviously a little bit of, I don't know if I could call it jank, but
Nothing's for free, Mitch.
Exactly,
In
right?
either
There's
way, yeah.
But we support it, we ship it. It's our kind of private cloud solution that we will have on top of our service. So like we love Nextcloud for sure, but they're ambitious. They're very, very. They've got.
They have
a
to
lot
be.
of
They're
ambitious.
important. Tools like that need to exist because as I'm not going to sit here and bash the cloud because the convenience of it is very, very helpful. But like this whole concept of no one owns anything anymore
Yeah.
and you can't do it yourself
Yeah.
is it's a little scary. So
Self-hosted
it's
is
nice to
powerful.
have self-hosting options.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we have a segment that we that we do every week, and it's essentially war stories. And so what it really is, and it centers around, is a project or something at work or a video. It really could be anything in the tech world that you've done where you went in one side thinking, okay, I've got this is going to be fine, and then you come out the other side a whole new man, essentially going through the ringer, through the grinder. Anything that you can think of that you've ever experienced with that type of epiphany?
Is it too soon to talk about CES? Because I just
Absolutely
got
not.
back.
No.
Okay, because boy, was that not what I expected.
Really?
No, it was awesome. I am already planning and ready to go back next year. but
Nice. I would love to
Man,
go too.
I went into it. It was fantastic. But I went into it like I don't know what I really expected. I mean, I knew what CES was. I'd seen people do coverage on it years years back, and every year I kind of watch CES coverage. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's just this tech conference where there's a bunch of booths set up, and you go in and talk to people and blah blah blah. So I went last week, and the idea was I had like 2 companies that I was working with. They were like, hey, come visit our booth, make a video, blah blah blah. So I knew that. So I was like, okay, each day I'll just walk around the floor and kind of film my experience and make a video.
Yep.
I walk in the first day, and oh my God, the scale of this conference was insane.
Yeah.
Like, I walked into the Venetian where a small part of it was, and there's just so many booths and so many people that I'm like, where
do I go?
am I doing here? Where do I even start? So I'm just like walking around filming like random stuff. I didn't get much done the first day at all. That night I was like, okay, I'm going to regroup. Second day we're going to go in,
target
plan of attack.
Yeah.
And I went back to the Venetian and I did some interviews and talked to some people. Then I went downstairs, which is where like all the startups are, like all the small companies. So like the first floor of the Venetian has the main floor has like pretty moderately sized booths to display their products and stuff. Some larger businesses. You go downstairs, it's like the wild west, man. Everyone's running AI. Everyone's like got like buzzwords and like want to bring you in with this. And I was just like blown away. And then turns out like then you go to the convention center, which is where the big boys are.
Oh yeah.
The Samsungs, the Kias, the LGs.
Yep.
And oh my God, that was like what I saw at the Venetian, like on steroids. It was, I was just like
overwhelmed
the entire time. It was crazy. I still have all the footage. I put out a couple of videos on some of the stuff I saw, but I have my full like CES experience video. I haven't even unloaded the footage yet. That's how terrified I am of trying to piece this together.
Put it together,
make it look like a cohesive story. It was a lot. It was really fun, but man, I'm already writing down what not to do.
What not to do for next
when
year.
I go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait to see the
wild.
full video. That's going to be interesting, knowing that backstory, that context.
Knowing that I was crying the whole time editing
Just
it
inside.
because none of it makes sense. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
it was fun.
That's some good
If
insight
you guys have
knowledge.
the opportunity to go next year,
Oh man,
strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
It was like a nerd's like
dream,
paradise walking
Yeah.
around there. Yeah, it was great.
I'm sure AI was in full force this year for sure. I saw lots of good OLEDs got announced. I love OLED.
Better than blockchain.
Better than blockchain.
Yeah, it was one of the, for the most part, like going up to people at these booths, like especially at the Venetian when they were a little bit smaller, and just like talking to some of these people who are so passionate about their project there was really cool. Like I'd go up and say, hey, I have like a YouTube channel. I'd give them a mic. Do you guys want to like talk about it? And everyone was just so happy to talk about their project. It was awesome. The only weird experience I had was I went to the Gigabyte booth, and obviously a huge company, and they had some really fancy servers on display. Some that probably cost as much as my house. And talked with one of the representatives there. I was like, hey, I have a YouTube channel. Like, it'd be cool if someone could like kind of show these off and kind of explain like why people are using them, what they're using them for. And she's like, okay, yeah, this guy. And he was kind of like talking with some other people about him. So I waited till he was done, and he walked over, I introduced myself, and the representative was like, okay, so like, can you be on camera? Like, he wants to talk about this. Can you show him off? And the guy's like, I think you know everything already. I was like,
sure?
I mean, I
What a
read
pitch.
the label. Like, I know this is like an AMD like enterprise APU. I know
But
this
what's
is
it
a
for? What's it targeted for?
like, yeah, I'm like, I can read. I kind of know what they are, but it'd be cool to have like a Gigabyte representative really talk about them.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I don't know. There's like expensive servers. Do AI stuff. I'm like,
When you get that big, I guess you don't really have to entertain the masses.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, great. Thanks.
Gee,
that.
thanks
I
for
guess
that
you're not
one.
obligated to talk to me, but
Yeah.
this is the first time someone's been like, nah, you're good.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that for sure. I
But
guess,
overall,
yeah.
it was
Gigabyte.
fun.
Maybe if someone like Linus showed up, he'd have a little more. He's like, ooh, starstruck.
Oh, yeah, he gets the I noticed in all his
Oh, yeah.
videos when he's doing the like MSI tours and the ASUS tours, like they have the doors to the conference rooms blocked off, and no one
Closed,
else is in
yeah.
there. And those are the ones where I felt like, man, going up to like the third floor of the Venetian where they have all the private conference rooms where Asus and MSI and all the laptop manufacturers showing off their stuff. That just felt like a content factory. I walked in there and just everyone's got a camera. Everyone's
Yeah.
smushed together, like talking about stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some shots in here and kind of just leave. 'Cause,
Yeah.
this is a little much.
Cool, man. Well, I'm very excited to check out your CES content for sure. It's been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. I think we're just coming up to our time here.
Sure.
Would love to have you on again for sure in the future, especially because we got some more home lab content coming out soon. We got some really good ideas for the future for the 45 home lab lineup. So I'm sure you'll be
Awesome.
early in lineup for that stuff.
Yeah, excited to hear, see and hear the feedback of your Houston UI and TrueX.
Yeah, that's
and I'll
gonna be
just say
fun.
again that it's a big push on us here
Yep.
to put a lot more functionality in that and grow that bigger. We want to,
Yeah,
we want
we'll
to
keep
start
in touch
winning
with
that
him.
battle a little more
Yep.
in the future. So
Absolutely. Well, we have
So,
a full
going up against
redesign.
TrueNAS.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a full
That's a-
redesign of
that's a big one.
ZFS module coming, which is really exciting. But we'll definitely stay in touch as you get closer to releasing that video and let you know kind of the schedule of the updates that we have.
And we'll say anyone who isn't already, please go subscribe. Check out Ray Owl's YouTube channel. Great stuff on there. Really good watch. Like we said earlier, good humor, good learning, good everything.
Yep.
And keep. You heard the insider tip when you see the CES video.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you know the backstory.
yeah,
You know, he has some PTSD.
yeah. And
Yeah, it's gonna be rough.
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
So join us next week.
Yes.
For our next episode, with our guest will be Chris. Help me out. Who's our guest? Mr. Alan Nagel from HD Store, former engineer at Seagate.
Seagate, yeah. Yeah, he's a really interesting cat.
Yep.
He's got a lot of knowledge on hard drives. Awesome. Thanks a lot. I guess that's what's spinning for this week.